Hello, and thank you for tuning in to a special update from the Vestibular Disorders Association's Life Rebalanced Chronicles. Last year during Balance Awareness Week, Vita premiered a docuseries which tells the stories of 9 vestibular warriors, none of whom expected to be knocked down by the symptoms of a vestibular disorder. All of them looked fear, anxiety, and loneliness in the face and said, "You will not define me." Their message of hope has reached millions of people who also struggle with invisible chronic illness. Now that we're quickly approaching Balance Awareness Week, 1 year after the Life Rebalanced Chronicles debuted, we'd like to take the time to check in with some of our vestibular warriors for an update. I'd like to welcome our LRC director, Kimberly Warner. Kimberly is a filmmaker and photographer based in Portland, Oregon, who made this docuseries become the beautiful piece of art it is today. Welcome, Kimberly.
Hi, everybody. I love this project, and I love seeing all of your faces again. I think it's a year later, and I check in with all of you occasionally, but it's been such a rewarding journey, and to also have the larger community see all of your faces and kind of deepen into your stories and see how important that's been to them and their own vestibular journeys. So yeah, all around, it's just, I hope this family continues to evolve and grow with time.
And these vignettes or these looks into our vestibular warriors' lives have just been so meaningful to so many people going through the same thing that I've actually used this with my patients to help them feel heard and listened to and can connect with each and every one of you and what you've been going through. So I am very interested in hearing on about some updates. So Lynn, how about you tell us a little bit about how participating in the Life Rebalanced Chronicles has impacted your life?
Well, I would have to say that it had allowed me to really see the strength. I don't want to toot my own horn, but looking back at the episodes, I was like, wow, I've been through so much. Oh, yeah, that's where I was. That's where I've been. So I was looking at the resiliency that was displayed by everyone. It has really allowed me to open my eyes as to what my voice is and what my purpose is.
That's amazing. Steve, what about you? How has it impacted your life?
Well, I just brain fogged right when you asked that. I think for me that the connections I've made have been huge through doing this documentary series. I'm very, very proud of the project as a whole. And like Lynn said, I'm not going to toot my own horn because it took all of us, but I think Kimberly put together a project that we're all proud of. So it gave me a tool to tell people, hey, go watch this. I'm a part of it. You know, all my friends watched it that don't have vestibular disorders. And it gave me an extra tool in my tool bag to say, this is what I go through. And the other thing that it's impacted me was just hearing everybody's stories. I think it's just huge, and I feel super blessed that I got a chance to tell my story through this documentary. So it made me realize that I need to listen to other people's stories just as much as worry about my own, and that's been a big part of my life now.
I love getting to know each and every one of you on a deeper level and was so moved by each and every one of your stories. I know that everybody else has had a similar experience, and we couldn't thank you guys enough for taking the time to share that with all of us. Alicia, what about you? How has this impacted your life?
I would say I have a similar answer to Steve in that it really brought me closer to some of the members who shared their story. So I got really close to Sandy and Nicole throughout the whole thing. And we've stayed in touch throughout it all. And we've really become like each other's kind of sounding board, either as new mom or, you know, with Nicole, we check in on each other all the time. And it's just been really nice to have that relationship that's kind of formed out of it, as well as just having a piece of my story all in one place that will forever be there and forever be told. And it's kind of nice to be able to go back and reference that as things continue to change in my life, and I'm sure everyone else's, and we continue to grow. It's kind of like a nice little snapshot of history that we'll always have to go back to.
I liked that this kind of broadened that support group that you have. And having support is so important when going through something like this, that you don't feel alone, that you have other people that can commiserate with you and build you up and build each other up and check on you and check on each other. I think that's a very important thing to have in everybody's journey back to balance. And speaking of support groups, David, how has your last year been since the Life Rebalanced Chronicles premiered? What's changed for you?
Wow, I'm super busy. As most of you know, I do a lot of work with volunteers with the Vestibular Disorders Association, and I'm an ambassador. I do a ton of stuff, and this program right here, these videos, I thought I'd have to go out and kind of promote these things, but no, I found just the opposite. When I meet new volunteers, usually they're the ones that are bringing it up, and they say, "Hey, wait a minute. Aren't you that person on those videos?" And I'm like, yeah, I was on the videos. And it kind of makes you feel like a little bit of a star, Thank you, Kimberly.
You are a star.
Not really. Kimberly made us look all good in that. I tell you that right now.
She did.
Yeah, so when you go out there and work with the vestibular community, and I work with the vestibular community all over the world, and so far I have heard from all over the world about these Life Rebalanced Chronicles stories. So it's starting to work, Kimberly, and people that have gone into this. So it's definitely changed a lot of vestibular patients' life, because they like to lean on these stories.
And I love that you're rocking the flamingos with me today, David, for our Balance Awareness Week coming up. Kimberly, has life since Life Rebalanced Chronicles debuted, has that changed your work or your personal life? Has it impacted you since directing this and putting this together?
Yeah, actually, personally, definitely. As a vestibular patient, I was just thinking about it, and it's, I didn't have a huge community before all of this. And so for me, like, I would try to muscle my way through the bad days, and I felt like I was just me muscling my way through. And I have this feeling now that I have the strength of a million. And all of you are in my head now, and all of the extended community are in my head when I'm having a really bad day. And I feel like I'm drawing from that strength now. And it definitely makes it easier, way easier than when I was just like me, myself, and I. So that's been really huge.
And again, having that support is so important.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of leads me into my next question. And Lynn, I'm going to start with you first. Have you had a lot of people reach out to you as a result of LRC? We shared where they can find you on social media. Do you have a lot of people that reached out? Oh, hold on one second. You're muted, Lynn. There we go.
Sorry.
You're good.
Yes, I had a whole lot of traffic on my Facebook support group page that I help administer, which was the autoimmune inner ear disease support group. So many people joined after viewing the docuseries, and also a number of people approached me in my personal life. Like they were like, I'm so encouraged. They were just happy to have someone to have a voice as to what they were experiencing. But a number of people told me that it had helped them and encouraged them in their journey of healing and recovery. So it's reached a lot of people. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, my pastor came up to me and he said, I just watched the series. And he said, I just want to tell you how powerful that, and I want to say this to Kimberly, he was telling me how powerful he felt the docuseries was, and he sees how that work will go on to encourage so many people. He just went, I'm so impressed with that. So, yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I love that. Alicia, what about you? Have you seen an increase in people reaching out and trying to pick your brain?
Yeah, actually, I had a few people mention Life Rebalanced Chronicles when they came to me, and just like how wonderful it was for them to find people they could relate to. And so it's been really nice for me to be able to either get them resources that I know about, like kind of hook them up either with other people who are in the cast, or with doctors that have helped me, or therapists or whoever. And so it's been kind of nice to be able to connect on that level.
Which is awesome. Which is really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, what about you?
Yeah, mine was kind of a different angle that I wasn't expecting at all. Of course, I had all the people on my support groups and the people that follow my social media. You know, they loved it. But the thing I wasn't expecting was I've had a lot of musicians coming out of the woodwork contacting me because I mentioned in the documentary that I used to be a musician and I still do what I can. And that kind of shocked me because I mentioned it, I think, one time in one show. But I've found that there's a community of vestibular musicians out there that once they saw that, they got in contact with me to pick up each other's brains and what's life like as a musician. How do you hear music? What's role does it play in your life anymore? And one particular gentleman, and he's in Ohio, close to where I grew up, and he's a piano player. He contacted me just recently, and through Beta, um, we're trying to brainstorm what we could do to reach the musician community, and specifically like come up with something that will kind of speak to the musicians and give them something specific. So there's some projects in the works that we're at the very, very beginning stages of, but I'm pretty excited about that because I did not expect that at all. But it's something I'm passionate about, and lost passions are something that I really care about with the vestibular community. People reintroducing themselves to their paintings or their artwork or anything they used to do that they used to love to do. So I'm hoping I can be kind of a pipeline for some musician type discussions and social media stuff for vestibular people, because I think that's like a missing. When you're a musician and you lose that, you feel like you've been amputated. A part of you has been amputated. And then being in the vestibular community, it's nice to find out people that feel that same way about that particular topic. So that's what it's done for me.
I like that. That's exciting to hear about your take on musicians, because I think that there is a whole community out there of vestibular dysfunction amongst musicians, but they're tentative to reach out or be open about it because they don't want that to affect their ability to get gigs or do shows. So I think that's really interesting. We should get you reaching out to Mr. Huey Lewis from Huey Lewis and the News.
Yeah, he told me to forget it. He was too busy for me. So I'm like, all right.
Well, we're calling him out now. He's got to contact you, Steve. We got to get you on the books. David, what about you? Since the Life Rebalanced Chronicles has debuted, have you noticed more people reaching out to you and getting in contact with you? Is there anyone in particular that has stuck out in your mind that has reached out because of Life Rebalanced Chronicles?
Yeah, sure. We have, like I said, I run a online support group, and I have a lot of people that come on just because they saw this the Chronicle story on YouTube, and they reached out for me, particularly people that had the same diagnosis as me. I have a lot of stroke patients that have had vestibular disorders reach out to me because they saw my story, and that's why your story is so important, because you will have like people reach out to you and see how you got through this, how you coped with it, what tools did you use, and maybe help them along their journey. And if I had somebody like that when I first started, it would have been so great. I didn't, but that's part of what this whole series does. It shows that everybody has a different vestibular disorder, but a lot of times we're the same. I'm a stroke patient that had the vestibular disorder, but I feel almost all the same things that Alicia, Steve, and Lynn, and Kimberly, all of them. So, even though we're different, we're all the same as well. And that's the biggest part I've seen is people reaching out to me that are more like my disorder, a stroke survivor.
One thing I thought was remarkable about the series, and Kimberly did an amazing job of threading this together, was having you guys almost finishing each other's sentences. I mean, you guys all filmed individually, but you're all saying so many of the similar things that they were fitting together so well in each of the episodes that I'm sure a lot of people are also experiencing similar symptoms and difficulties that each of you are experiencing. That's why it connects and resonates so well. Kimberly, have you come across other stories, other vestibular or people suffering from vestibular dysfunction since this has come out? Has it been more magnifying to the cause?
Yeah. Yes. Of course, a lot of that happens over on the Unfixed Instagram channel or whatever. And it seems like the support of anything that I post, even if it's not vestibular related or just chronic illness, it seems like the overwhelming support comes from the vestibular patients. So we've got sort of this little tribe of support happening. But specifically, there's a couple, one that I was really touched by, and it's a lot overseas. So I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name yet, but I think it's Yanis. He's over in France. And he reached out because he has MDDS, and he said that this series, you guys, saved his life. He was rock bottom, not sure if life could go on living the way that he was feeling. And you guys saved his life. And he's been so motivated by what you guys did that he actually reached out to Vita and started a chapter in France. So now he's got another, nonprofit going on. I think it's a whole contract thing where they join forces, and it's called a dev. And so he's running with it, learning how to film and learning how to make his own mini series, and really wants to make sure that other people in his country and in Europe are not left out of this. So that was pretty cool.
I will say that the Vestibular Disorders Association has seen amazing things come out of these chronicles that debuted last year. And like you had mentioned, we have a new partner, a French partner, who's spreading the same message as Vita to create this same feeling of what we're trying to do for our people also suffering from vestibular dysfunction. So I think that this chronicles that debuted a year ago have just done amazing things for raising awareness about vestibular dysfunction and connecting more people around the world, which is important. The series that debuted last year is a snapshot of how you guys were feeling in that moment in time and your journeys up to that point. Why don't we talk a little bit about if there's anything that's different? Lynn, have you tried anything new that's impacted your vestibular symptoms or your day-to-day function?
Yes, two things. Number one is that I had always knew that I would have to get a cochlear implant surgery because I was deaf. And the reason why I was hesitating was because it is known to make your vestibular problems worse. It could lead to vertigo. It could lead to more imbalance. So I was hesitating. But I took a leap of faith and I got my implant so I can hear a little bit better. It's so much better. But it did affect my vestibular, my balance. So at the time, I also was using the walking stick. And I used them for the first time, and they helped me to regain my balance after the surgery. So I was using the walking poles, and that really helped me a lot. And I didn't realize how they really give you a better posture and really help you to gain your balance, other than the cane, because I was walking, leaning, limping, but the poles actually corrected my posture and allowed me to have better balance after the surgery. So that's two things: the surgery, so now I can hear better, and the walking stick.
I like that. And I think we have a strategic partnership with Urban Polling, who is responsible for those walking sticks to help you out. So that's amazing to hear. David, what about you? Have you tried anything new since the series debuted that has affected your symptoms? We might have lost David. So
Oh
Alicia,
no.
let's jump to you.
I'll hop in there until David comes back. Yeah, actually, so
Can you
when
guys
I
hear me?
filmed, oh, there he is.
There's David.
Do you want to switch back to David?
Yeah, sure. David, why don't you tell us if
Okay.
you tried anything new in the last year that has affected your symptoms? Good or bad?
I don't think he's there.
Oh, no. Sorry. I'll hop in. Yeah, so when I filmed Life Rebalanced Chronicles, actually, I was very newly postpartum. I want to say I had just had my baby probably like 4 months before, and I was really struggling. Like, I had a plan with my neurologist, which I think helped a lot, but I also had to, because I was breastfeeding, I also had to get my pediatrician and children's hospital and everything on board with some of the medications. And so it was kind of a rough time for me when we filmed. I was going through a lot of like postpartum anxiety and some depression, and just, I don't know, I was feeling like really kind of lost in myself, even after knowing myself with the vestibular disorder for so long. And so one of the things that I added in was called, it's like non-invasive vagus nerve stimulation. And so we know a lot about like the gut brain connection and how that can be helpful. I started using a device called Gamma Core. I actually have it here with me. I use it like all the time if I have either symptoms creep up or preventatively. And it's been really amazing for the past year, because like trying to take care of a baby and a toddler, sometimes I can't deal with the side effects of meds. And so that's been life changing, just to be able to do a simple stimulation, not have to deal with like being tired or not having any energy to chase them around. So that's been a huge addition to my treatment plan, and it's really amazing to see that kind of grow in the community, and the vagus nerve get more attention as far as vestibular migraine as well. So that's probably my biggest thing that I've done that's made a difference.
Cool. That is cool. That there's a lot of new studies that are coming out about vagus nerve stimulation. So it's been really cool to see your journey with it through your social media accounts and how it's been working so well for you, especially with the crazy life of having a infant turning into a toddler. It's like nonstop go, go, go. You don't have those days off. So I can imagine that's probably been a lifesaver if it's been working for you, which is good to hear.
Yeah.
Man, every time I see you with that on like social media, Alicia, I'm like, I want to try it. Maybe Vita can get some like trial Gamma Cores and send them out to people.
Yeah, we're working on it actually. So stay tuned. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll help you out with that, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. Steve, what about you?
Mine's pretty simple. I mean, I'm still very symptomatic most days. My bad days, I'm in bed all day, and just can't really get it motivated to do anything, and don't have the energy to do stuff. Dizziness, nausea, and everything. The one thing I've done in the last year since the documentary was, I purchased a pair of the red lens glasses for light sensitivity. And I didn't know what it would do to help me, but it's been a real big benefit for me. I wear them inside, outside. I wear them almost all the time, and I can just tell when I put them on that my brain relaxes a little bit, especially if you're in a grocery store with fluorescent lights or a bright lighted area. Those glasses have I can just feel my brain relaxing once I put them on. And I wear them all the time now. I don't have them now because they're not prescription, so I wouldn't be able to see you. But that's been probably the biggest change, and it's a very subtle change, but it's also there's like a comfort to it too. Like when I put them on, I just kind of feel like, okay, I'm taking care of myself. So it's a mental and emotional effect, but there's also a physical relaxation that I can feel in my brain when I put those glasses on. And I'm sure you guys have all seen him. Rishi wears them all the time too, and that's who I communicated with to figure out how do I go about getting these, and he walked me through it, and that's been awesome. So.
Now, I know many people who are going to watch this are going to ask, well, what glasses are they? Is there a specific brand that worked well for you that you could recommend?
Mine, I think, are just Ray-Bans, and they make a special one. Rishi has like a specific one that he got off of Amazon that I couldn't get. So I just went to my normal eye doctor and explained my situation, and they just were like, okay, this is what we need to get. So I don't have the exact brand that Rishi has, but
Rishi's were Axons.
yeah, exactly. I couldn't remember what it was, but that's like a company specifically made to make those glasses specifically for that. Where I worked and got a different company. I think they're Ray-Bans, but they're really helpful, and it's just something that, you know, when you have diseases like us, you're willing to try anything and everything, and we've all been trying anything and everything. And so I just thought, you know, why not try the glasses? And it's been a benefit.
Now, Alicia, you also use Axon Optics. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have in the past. I've jumped around to quite a few different migraine glasses. So
What's your top? What's your favorite right now?
My favorite right now, so I use migraine shields a lot for things like this, where I feel like people need to see my eyes and see them well, because they're just the least amount of tint, and I also use them for a lot of photo editing. But for out and about, I actually really like Avulux. They are like FL41 lenses on steroids, basically. So they have what they've done is incorporated some technology that has green light therapy in it. So green light therapy has been found to be helpful for migraine, especially. And so they let in a narrow band of soothing green light, which is kind of interesting from other glasses. So I do notice a difference, like wearing those out to grocery stores or just out and about. That can be kind of helpful with light sensitivity too. But they've all been helpful throughout my whole migraine journey. I think Axon was like one of the first ones I ever started with. And so they have some great frames too. So I find it's like super individual for what people prefer.
That's awesome. Kimberly, what about you? You suffer from vestibular dysfunction, having MDDS as well. Like, have you tried anything in the last year that's made a difference in your symptoms?
Yes, 1,000% yes. And I thank Sandy for this, because she was struggling with, MDDS and postpartum symptoms that accompanied that or exacerbated that. And she started Effexor. And I'm, like many of you, are extremely sensitive to drugs and like very resistant to trying anything. My ENT said, oh yeah, I use that with patients. I typically start with the 38 milligram time release. And so I tried that. Awful, like not good, made me dizzier, made me sleepy. And Sandy said, no, do the 25 milligram immediate release. And my ENT said, they don't make that. Your friend's crazy. That doesn't exist. And I was like, okay. So I went to Dr. Bay, and he's like, yes, they do make it. And I've been on it for 10 months, and I'm having like the summer of my life, because I feel mostly normal for the first time in 8 years. So, and I still have, low symptoms, but even then they kind of, they fade into the background, and I bounce back so much more quickly when I've had like a stressful period of days or bad sleep or any of that stuff. It's just, I feel more resilient in general. So for me, the Effexor, and my naturopath even loves prescribing it for her like perimenopausal patients, because apparently there's some sort of estrogen building effect to it. So a thumbs up for that.
Well, that's a big shout out to Dr. Shin Bay as well, who is like our current migraine guru in the US at least. So if anybody's having symptoms, make sure you look him up and check him out, because he is well worth it. He's helped so many people, get kind of their symptoms on track. So that was a good shout out to him.
Yeah, and not to interrupt, but like that's an amazing testimony that, you go to one doctor and they tell you it's not possible, or there's nothing else you can do, or you know, that
Mhm.
that's not even a thing. And then you went and you turned around to someone who's maybe a little more vestibular focused or something like that, and they're like, oh yeah, I hear this, we can do this,
Yeah,
let's make this work for you. And what a change it's made. I mean, it just speaks to
absolutely.
like not giving up, and even just a doctor change can make
Mhm.
such a difference, you know?
So
Mhm.
true.
Very
Yeah.
true.
And
All right.
I remember early on, right when Kimberly was getting ready to test this drug, and you were kind of nervous, Kimberly. I remember you were just like, not nervous like what's it gonna do to me, but nervous like almost like a false hope. I don't want to give myself false
Mhm.
hope. I'm trying another thing, and if it fails, then I'm going to be even more discouraged. But I remember you kind of battling that for the first couple weeks
Mhm.
when you were trying that, and then one day you just texted me and said, "Hey, stuff is working great." So
Yep.
I'm so happy that you pursued it and didn't let your discouragement go, because false hope is something we all get. We've had victories and we've also had many defeats, and the defeats are kind of hard to take when you think you can do something to fix yourself and it doesn't work. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy that that really kicked in for you hard.
Thank you guys. I mean, and that, yeah. And I think again, I was drawing from the strength of 1,000, and all of you can be like, I can do this. I'm gonna try it, even if it fails. I'm gonna try it, I'm so glad I had all of you to kind of, draw from. So yeah.
I will say our vestibular warriors are some of the most resilient patients I've ever had the pleasure to work with. You guys definitely know how to just get back up and keep on going, which I think makes it so unique of experience to work with people like you. Who just don't give up. And it's the people like you that I think just are that spark of encouragement for others who are also struggling in their darkest of days, which is another reason why this whole project has just been amazing. I can't begin to tell you how important this has been to the Vestibular Disorders Association, me as a clinician, and to those trying to understand the journey that their loved ones, family members, and friends have been going through. So what you guys put out there is just absolutely amazing. And I think, the next question I have, and Lynn, I'd like to start with you, is what's next? Is there anything new that represents the next chapter of being a vestibular advocate, or a next chapter of your journey?
Yes. I just want to say, I also believe that we have not seen the full impact of this series, and this is only the beginning. But we haven't seen what is going to become yet. It's really going to have a huge impact that we can't even imagine. But this has really pushed me into advocacy. I am very active with Vita. I have joined committees in reaching out with community partners, helping Vita to be more inclusive. I also applied. I don't know yet, to be on the board of directors at Vita. So I'm moving forward, and even outside of the vestibular community, I've become an advocate for the Hearing Loss Association as well.
That's amazing. And Vita is very, very lucky to have you as a vestibular warrior, an advocate, and hopefully future board member here as well, where you can affect
Mm.
some amazing change, especially bringing inclusion into the organization. I think this is going to be a really great start of a next chapter for you. Steve, what about you? What's next in your vestibular journey? What's going on?
Well, after the documentary came out, I was just finishing up my second bike ride, called On the Vertigo, and the social media from that and the social media mixed with the documentary series just went so well that I started my own nonprofit called On the Vertigo. And we advocate, we tried to raise funds. We did a golf fundraiser in Florida last spring, then raised over $6,000 doing that. And it was just a great time. And yet I still feel like I'm still feeling kind of trapped in the vestibular community, even with my social media and stuff. All my most of my followers are vestibular people, and that's all good and well. But I'm kind of experimenting this summer with breaking out of that and trying to get people outside of our community to recognize what happens inside our community. So as of right now, on the Vertigo, my nonprofit is sponsoring a lady that lives in Milwaukee, and she's a competitive triathlete. And so we had jerseys, race jerseys made up for her that say on the Vertigo, and they have a big swirl, like a busy swirl on the front of it. And she's proudly wearing that in her contest now. And she doesn't have a vestibular disorder, but she knows about mine. But I'm just interested to kind of see where that goes outside of our community. Like if people ask her about her jersey, she can she can almost advocate and say, "Well, I have a friend who has a vestibular disorder, Meniere's disease," and explain it. And kind of it's me being able to put myself out into the real world, the non-vestibular world, and get the word out on what I do with On the Vertigo, what my nonprofit's about, and what we all go through. So it's kind of an experiment at this point, but I'm just waiting, and I'm excited to see. I'm excited to hear the story she's going to tell me about what the jersey might, the discussions that might come up from it, because that's kind of my hope is that not I don't just serve the vestibular community, which I love to advocate for, but I also want to bring the awareness outside to the people who have no idea what we go through. And so I'm trying to think of ways of doing that. So my first project is sponsoring this girl who does athletes, sending her off into the world of triathlons and seeing if what comes from it. So I'm just kind of throwing dust at the wind and seeing where it lands. But I'm kind of excited to see what happens with it.
That's cool.
You're making the invisible more visible, which is for sure. Alicia, what about you? What's next in your next chapter in your journey? What's new? What's going on?
I have a lot going on. So after doing IVF with my first baby, we had a big surprise this summer, and I'm pregnant without doing any fertility treatment. So that was shocking, to say the least. All my doctors are shocked too, and so I'm just kind of rolling with it. It's been a bit of a challenge this time around. The first time I had a lot of hormonal medications and everything, so that was its own separate challenge. And this time, I struggle with what's called hyperemesis gravidarum, so it's extreme morning sickness. And so it's hard to find things to eat, and that's kind of tricky for me living with vestibular migraine. So just trying to manage all of that. But good things seem to happen to me when I have babies. So I had to pull this out like shameless self promotion, but I have a new book coming out this October. It's actually with Dr. Shinbei, who we kind of talked about before. He's my neurologist as well, and he approached me last year with the idea of doing a science-based cookbook for eating for brain health. And so that's what this book is all about. And it's finally coming out. So there's a lot of recipe testing postpartum and during this crazy time in my life, but it's really nice to see it finally come together. I'm also working on the Life Rebalanced conference. So we'll have that come out early next year. With all new speakers, which should be really, really exciting. I have a lot going on in the migraine community as well. So when I first started this journey about 6 years ago, I remember bringing up vestibular migraine to other migraine organizations, and no one took me seriously because they said it's such a small group and no one really has it, and they didn't want to really put a lot of focus on it. And now I see more and more migraine groups bringing attention to vestibular migraine and realizing, oh, perhaps people just weren't getting the right diagnosis. And that's why we didn't have as many people talking about it. And so the more awareness we're putting out there within the migraine community that you do not have to have head pain to experience vestibular migraine, the more awareness we're creating for it. So that's been kind of exciting to see it grow. I have a really big interview that I don't know if I can share, but it's coming out next year as well as a few events with like Miles for Migraine and everything like that. So that will be vestibular focused. So we're really excited about that.
There's so much to be excited about. A new cookbook,
Yeah.
conference coming out next year, a new baby. I mean,
Yeah.
we had a busy year, and I only see good things forward for you.
This was
I'm
supposed to be my year
pre-ordering that
for
book.
Oh, I will too. I have your first book and still love it and still cook from it. So you can count on me
all
for
the
next
time.
one.
Thank you guys. It's really nice.
David, I think we have you back. Welcome.
After a lot of technical difficulties, a hard reboot on my internet and a hard reboot on my computer, I am back temporarily. So I'm sorry I missed the conversation in the middle here, but that's technology for you. So what was the question again? Sorry.
So fill us in on what's next and what's on the next chapter for you in your vestibular journey. What do we have to look forward to hear from you?
Oh, I've got, like Alicia, I have a ton going on. So currently I am working in partnership with the Vestibular Disorders Association. I am the community support coordinator. So basically every volunteer that comes through our organization, I touch them first and kind of interview them and try to put them in the correct position in our organization. In addition to that, I'm running an online support group, which we meet the second Monday of every month. And you can find all of those support groups in the vestibular.org. We have online groups, we have in-person support groups, and all of it's coming more and more. We're getting more and more in-person support groups starting. I'm working with a number of people for online support groups as well. So those are coming. A lot more support groups are coming down the pipe. A lot more people are stepping up. So that's a great sign. I'm still working as the administrator of a Facebook support group. It's Vestibular Disorders Facebook group, and we are going to be happily, not, I guess if it's a bad thing that so many people are on there or a good thing that so many people are on there, but we are going to be approaching 20,000 people on this Facebook support group, which we started from 300. I want to say 6 or 7 years ago. We had 300 people on this initially. Now we're approaching 20,000 from all over the world, and I'm working, I think somebody had mentioned the French organization. I am working with a couple of the people from the French organization to start up their Facebook group, as well as some of their organizations in France. I don't speak the language, but I'm helping them the best I can. We're also looking in the near future doing more with the Spanish speaking community. So we're trying to become a real global, a global organization, because this doesn't just happen to English speaking people. It happens all over the world. And the more people we can touch by using their language, I think the better off we'll all be. And we'll hopefully help people cope with this all over the world going forward. So that's kind of what I've been doing. Not a lot. So,
Just a couple of things. I mean, 20,000 people is a lot of people, but I think it's a big testament to how many are out there looking for help. So the fact that, I mean, every single one of you who are on here talking to us, they have done a huge part in raising awareness, giving support to those who need it, and making people feel heard and feel better about what is happening to them, to find that support group, find those people to help them through. Kimberly, let's round it out with you. Let's wrap it up. What do we have to look forward to? What's your next chapter of your vestibular journey?
There's a lot, like you guys. One that I can't even say, I just got the email from Cynthia on Friday night, so I'm not going to spoil it, but there's something we're talking about tomorrow that's really exciting. The other thing, in September, end of September, right after Balance Awareness Week, I'm organizing a panel with medical students and vestibular patients to have real conversations and actually have the vestibular patients mentor the medical students. So we've got 3 medical students from Australia and 3 ambassadors that are going to hash it out and share stories and really get some momentum happening with the medical students so they don't leave medical school without any vestibular training. And I hope that that's just sort of the pilot for more to come, because there's a lot of students out there that need that education. And then helping Alicia out with the conference for next year. And the last thing is I joined the legislative committee with Vita, and that's been a big eye-opening experience for me. I did another mini series for chronic fatigue syndrome and long COVID patients earlier this year, and they had a huge advocacy effort with senators and congressmen. And I was like, how does Vita get involved in this? And they have a small committee, and so I joined, and we're starting to take steps to get some real things passed. That will develop and grow awareness. Daniel, you're part of that, and I'm committed to making sure that there's more visibility out there with what we struggle with. So that's exciting.
This is all exciting. And what's amazing is, we're coming up on my favorite time of year, which is Balance Awareness Week. I think I own an unhealthy amount of all things flamingo that we celebrate. So, we're going to hope that, everybody listening to this is also going to go back and rewatch or watch the Life Rebalanced Chronicles. Balance Awareness Week is from September 18th to the 24th. Please check out vestibular.org. There is so much the organization does, both in your face and behind the scenes, to help those with vestibular dysfunction make life just a little bit easier. Be sure to check that out. Celebrate with us. Strike your best flamingo pose and share your picture of Fiona the flamingo. And I want to thank all of you guys for joining us today. It is amazing to touch base with all of you and see where you are 1 year after the Life Rebalanced Chronicles debuted. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we look forward to maybe another update a year from now.
Thank you.
Danielle. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Go to vestibular.org for more videos like this one. Also there, you'll find information, support, and encouragement to help you find your journey back to balance.